So, you're in a relationship with someone who's, well, a bit of a perfectionist. It can feel like a delicate dance, right? Today, we're going to dive deep into the world of the Enneagram Type 1 to help you really understand what makes them tick, so you can build a stronger, more connected relationship.
This way would be better. Huh. Does that sound familiar? It's that little suggestion, that constant tweak. It's a phrase that can land with such a thud, even when, they really mean it to be helpful. It's probably one of the most common things you'll hear from a Type 1 partner.
And because you hear that so often, you might feel like you're constantly being corrected, like you're always falling just a little bit short, or that nothing you do is ever quite good enough. It's a super frustrating place to be, and trust me, if you feel that way, you are definitely not alone.
Yeah, this whole dynamic, we can actually call it the perfectionist partner problem. It's that feeling of being under a microscope, where it seems like every single action is being evaluated. And over time, that can make you feel constantly criticized, and it can really start to chip away at your confidence, and, more importantly, your connection.
But, and this is so important, here's the crucial reframe you need to hold on to. What you're experiencing is criticism. What feels like a personal attack often isn't coming from a bad place at all. It's actually their way of trying to make things better, to prevent problems, and, believe it or not, to show you that they care.
To really get this, though, we need to understand the why behind their behavior. So let's take a look inside the mind of a Type 1 and see what's really going on in there.
See, at their absolute core, a Type 1 isn't just driven to be perfect. They're driven by this profound, deep-seated need to be good, to be right, to be ethical. And underneath that is a real fear that if they don't maintain control and uphold these high standards, everything's going to fall apart. It's way less about vanity and much more about trying to keep chaos at bay.
And this is where it gets really interesting, when we translate their internal world. So when you experience what feels like just constant criticism, what they're often thinking is, how can we make this better so it doesn't break down the road? What you feel as nitpicking and control, they see as, I have to fix this right now to prevent a problem. And that look of unhappiness, a lot of the time, that's them literally holding back their anger because they think it's a bad emotion, and it just kind of leaks out as tension and frustration.
And this is because their love language, it's almost always about action and service. They show you they love you by taking responsibility, by taking burdens off your shoulders. They create order and structure to make life feel safe. They're the ones who will fix that leaky faucet to make your life easier. Their love is all about principles like reliability and respect. They show up, period.
Okay, but even with the absolute best intentions, this whole dynamic can so easily spiral into a really negative pattern. So let's look at the main conflict loop that so many couples get stuck in, what we call the correction-defense cycle. Let's break down how this thing works. It starts, right, when your Type 1 partner makes a suggestion, an improvement. For you, it lands as a criticism, making you feel like you're not good enough. So naturally, you get defensive to protect yourself. But for the Type 1, your defensiveness feels like you're just dismissing their very important values. So they double down and correct you more forcefully. And around you go. And every single time, that feeling of closeness gets a little bit smaller.
And this is exactly why you have to change the goal of the game. When you're caught in this cycle, the objective can't be about proving who's right and who's wrong anymore. The real win, the only win, is figuring out how to stay close even when you disagree.
Okay, so how do we actually do that? How do we break the cycle and start building bridges instead of walls? Let's get into the practical toolkit, starting with 5 things you should absolutely start doing. All right, first up, name their positive intention. Just saying, I see you want to make this better can be incredibly disarming. Next, give them clarity. Vague promises make them anxious. Specifics, like I'll get that done by Friday at 6 p.m., are so calming. Third, and this is a big one, set standards together. Decide which areas of your life actually need that level of perfection and which can just be good enough. Then, appreciate their effort. They often feel like all their hard work is invisible, so a simple, thank you for being so diligent can work wonders. And finally, use a timeout. Agree beforehand that when things get too hot, either of you can call a 20-minute break, no questions asked.
So, we've got our do's. But just as important, maybe even more important, is our list of don'ts. There are certain phrases and reactions that are basically like pouring gasoline on a fire for a Type 1. Let's look at the big pitfalls to avoid. Okay, number 1, never ever say, you're overreacting, just relax. That just invalidates something they feel is genuinely important.
Second, don't throw their own imperfections back at them. It's a low blow that just triggers deep shame. Third, avoid sarcasm like the plague. Little jabs like, oh, here comes Mr. Right, just break down trust. Also, don't procrastinate on something you said you'd do passive-aggressively. That will send their anxiety through the roof. And finally, don't use those big generalizations like you always do this or you never listen. It just makes the problem feel totally hopeless.
All right, we've got our do's, we've got our don'ts. Now let's get even more specific with some powerful phrases you can actually use. Think of this as your sentence bank for better communication.
Yep, we mentioned this one before, but I'm bringing it back because, honestly, it is the master key. This one sentence validates their core motivation without you having to agree with their method. It immediately shows them you're on the same team.
Oh, this one is a game changer. It's such a brilliant way to shift the whole dynamic. It doesn't say who's right, doesn't matter. It just postpones that battle and prioritizes understanding each other first. It turns a conflict into a collaboration. Just like that.
And this is how you set a really healthy boundary. You're not dismissing their concern. In fact, you're saying you want to hear it, but you're also clearly stating your own needs. It separates their delivery from their message, which allows the conversation to actually move forward productively. Look, learning all this stuff is great, but it's the practice that really creates change. So I have a small, totally doable assignment for you two this week. I want you to carve out just 10 minutes for something we're going to call a standards talk.
During this little chat, you're just going to ask this one simple question. Maybe you both agree that, yeah, financial planning and the kids' health, those require a super high standard. But maybe, just maybe, folding the towels a certain way or how the dishwasher is loaded, maybe those can officially be moved into the good enough category. I'm telling you, this conversation alone can relieve a massive amount of pressure for both of you.
So let's end right where we began. The next time you feel that little sting of a correction, I want you to try and see it as their love language in disguise. A kind of clumsy, misguided bid for security, for improvement, and for connection. After all, what if the ultimate right answer in a relationship isn't about being right at all, but about choosing, again and again, to stay close?